Mm.
So, welcome people on the Tantric Sex Power Intensive. And
Mm.
today I would like to introduce you to a woman who will take you on a sex and happiness journey. She is the owner of Soul Revolution and she empowers people with yoga, mindfulness, and Tantra. She is a
Yeah.
master in temple arts and she is my soul sister. So please give her a warm welcome, Veronica Clark.
Oh.
Hi!
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. And
I'm
yes, my
so
soul sister,
grateful
my
you are
baby
here.
girl. Actually, I like to joke. I say like my breasts are my antennas, and like they're so excited and alive because it's just like, yes, my sister's right here. It's beautiful, so beautiful. Thank you for having me on this
Yeah, and
on this
so
wonderful
happy you're
masterclass.
here too. Yeah, really.
Mm,
So,
yeah,
Veronica, can you please inspire us with your journey, how you end up with implementing Tantra into your life, and what does
yeah.
it mean to be this inspiration for a lot of people during their
Mm,
tantric journey, and how do we implement
mhm.
it into your life?
Yeah. So as you asked that, what I can feel into is that what has brought me to Tantra and what's brought me to a place of more aliveness was actually my ability to really dive into my grief, into deep, deep pain and suffering and trauma and all of those things that I experienced, but to really face them head on and look at them and actually experience the depth of the painfulness, which oftentimes felt like death, which oftentimes felt like this like annihilation, this ego annihilation,
Yeah.
this even physical sometimes. And so with the breaking open has brought so much more life and beauty and aliveness.
Yeah.
And I think that's really what the secret is for me anyways, is that when I've allowed myself to live so fully in all of the polarities, the dark and the light, then what happens is this beautiful birthing of life and fullness and richness. So
That's true.
yeah, it's a very, very compressed expression of how I've got to Tantra. Um, but in that, I realized that there was so much more. And so this is what began, why I began to invest and go to classes and workshops like ISTA, and I studied with Margot Anand and just doing my own deep reflection and also Kundalini yoga, deep meditation, deep clearing and processing that um, just kept awakening me
Yeah.
over and over and over, different levels of awakening. So yeah, that's
Yeah,
yeah,
interesting. Yeah, this
yeah.
tantric path is actually a way of reflecting on yourself,
Mhm.
being bigger than your stories in your mind, and being able to overcome yourself, your fear, your
Yes.
anger, your blame, your shame, your
Hmm.
guilt, whatever what is in place in your life, and to scale in a bigger way, like in the juice of life is everything, and
Yes.
participating in every moment, doesn't matter what happened, the good, the bad, and the ugly, like
Yeah.
bringing it on and just feel how you can interact with it from an authentic point of view, and not
Yeah.
from these spirals in your head. Yeah.
Mm. And that's a skill, right? Because a lot of times learn tools and techniques on how to actually manage some of these um, things that life is move towards us and what we move towards,
Yeah.
but to actually in the midst of life happening to be able to pause enough to take the action that's going to help us to be more alive in that, to expand more instead of contracting, is to me this practice, this living of
Yeah,
Tantra. It's not just
absolutely.
something you read in a book or something that it's like, oh, I went to this class, but it's really, it's the living. And let me give you an example. My beloved and I, we just had this really deep moment that was quite painful. I was getting ready to fly out and got dressed, got ready for this beautiful experience. And it was just in this moment of like within 10 minutes that we, something came up that wanted to come up, that was wanting to come up, and it just kind of burst. And in that I just felt so much like grief and anger and rage, and had to be able to just move through that really quickly. And so like in those moments of just moments even before this, jumping, moving into emotional release and moving into some yoga poses that could help me to like fully purge what was there. And um and it was exhilarating. And even from, I had no idea that that was going to happen, being really excited, being prepared to be here, and then in just a moment
A
shifting into a
split of
whole
a
new
second.
energy, just like that, just like that, and woof. And then and then it's like ashes, is like, the volcano, and then everything just starts to come back down again. And it's this coming back down, settling, and actually being able to be present with whatever again is going to show up. So it's really beautiful. Really, it's really beautiful. And I haven't always been able to move that way. And so anybody watching, I'll say it's like, it's these moments that invite us into the depths of our emotional body, that we don't have to stay stuck in the emotions. We can actually, the higher self, the part of you that knows that whatever's happening is actually happening for you,
Yeah,
for your
absolutely.
growth and your expansion, is saying, fuck, like something gets to burst open, one more layer, one more piece of body armor, one more
Yeah.
story gets to explode and be released.
Yeah. The beauty of Tantra from my perspective is actually that every every equation that you have in your life is a gift.
Yeah.
Even it doesn't feel like it.
Hmm. Hmm.
And it
Yeah.
gives you the the power to integrate, to be grateful for, and to forgive yourself and others in the
Yes.
situation, knowing that this person
Mhm.
also has his own stories or her own
Yes.
stories, and the reaction with each other is has actually nothing to do with each other.
Yeah.
It
Right.
only has something to do with you push my button and therefore I push your button, and then
Hmm.
you go and clear and see what comes up about what's
Yeah.
behind the button. What is the reason this button is pushed?
Hmm.
So it means that
Yeah.
the other one is not guilty. You are
Right.
not guilty. No blame, no shame, no guilt. Nothing is actually there. There is no right and there is no wrong. There is just
Right.
an event that is happening, and it triggers you and it gives you an opportunity to transform the situation,
Yeah. Hmm.
the 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 body that you actually, or the suit you are wearing, which
Hmm.
is we get used to it, but it's not
Yeah.
ours, because actually
Right.
we are pure, we are naked, we are everything that is in this divine source, and not just the way we look or the way we show up is something that is always pure. Most of the time we just having this way of doing because other people, if we come up like that, other people
Yeah.
allow us, other people accept us, other people see us, like us, adore us, and
I know.
it serves only the
Mm.
ego, but it doesn't serve the
Yeah.
heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is the beauty of Tantra, because when you walk this journey, you can tap into this essence, in this purity, in this
Yes.
innocence, in this wisdom
Hmm.
of all times.
Yeah. What you're speaking about is so subtle. Is so subtle. It's difficult for most to grasp, and it can only be truly, let me say, but it can be touched through experience, through allowing the heart to be open, through
Yeah.
allowing this. It's not something that is experienced in the mind, although later it's like, okay, we try to put
You
some
can
language to it,
explain it.
try to put some, as you have done right now. But the first place is this landing inside of the body, this which alchemizes and is able to touch, and then we get to decide, okay, now what do I do with this?
Yeah.
You know, how does this show up against my conditioning or the programs or the, you know, stories that I've been told or have been told about me? Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
subtle, beautiful practice.
And what I also find so fascinating is that when these things come up and you open your heart and you be present, and the moment you get back into your mind and try to solve these things, you can't
Mm, that's right.
anymore. Once you've
That's
been
right.
there, you can't anymore. And if you
Yeah.
try, you go crazy.
Yes. Hmm.
If you
This is, and
try,
this
you
is the
can go crazy.
surrendering,
Yeah.
right? This is the practice of surrendering. This is the
Yes.
practice of the releasing and the surrendering,
Allowing.
and just truly like being open and just letting things flow.
Yeah.
It's just flowing open to release. I think what happens though is there's, in my experience before has been a fear, which is the contraction, and then we keep it all inside. So then it just be things, the emotions, the stories, experiences become the stagnation inside that really depletes us energetically.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, to kind of be more clear on these subtle matters, this this really is, God, it's hard to put it to words, but as people are practicing tantra, to also open to the subtleness that just happens in these day-to-day moments, and being able to really breathe and stay open with them, to use the tools in the moment that's going to serve, so that not to feed the ego, but to serve, to help continue elevating,
Healing the
growing.
heart.
Yes. Yes. And I like that you just said that, healing the heart, because even as I said, this elevation could be, an ego thing too. So it really does come back to healing the heart and not the purpose simply of elevating, right? It's like, I'm
Yeah,
so conscious
like
as
they say,
fuck, right?
spiritual ego.
Yeah. So I love that you mentioned that. It is really more about opening up the heart, which is truly the expansion,
Yeah.
because the heart, you know, where the soul lives. Yeah. It's, I would like to mention too that, for about 3.5 years, I practiced intermittent celibacy. And this was, a time that I chose to to marry the parts of myself together, my masculine, my feminine, all the parts of me that have
Interesting.
been wounded and not loved by me, and to heal, you know, parts of codependency and whatever, even my really overt masculine, which is still here, you know, but really trying to nurture and nourish the relationship with myself, which is the most important first. And that was such a beautiful time in my life, and perhaps, one of the most potent, because I was just alchemizing and having to generate so much energy on my own. um, but I want to remind people also that that is also tantra, that this path of, you know, this part of the path of celibacy and cultivation of the soul self, and the marriage between the self is vital.
And
So,
practicing your sexual energy,
mhm,
mastering it. Like it is, you don't need to follow it with the drift. and
Right.
drift away from yourself and being
Right.
codependent with somebody else that needs to
Mhm.
give you the the interaction to feel whole, but
Right.
practicing this sexual energy to nourish yourself
Yeah.
and take a distance from distractions from outside,
Mm.
like a
Mm-hmm.
beloved or
Yes.
somebody, a sexual partner or whatever. So
Mm.
you always
Mm-hmm.
feel you are able to rely on yourself
Yes.
in any moment of time, even when you have sexual
Yes.
desire, because you are able to
Mm.
steer it and use it for your own nourishing and
Yes.
serving your heart.
It's so beautiful that understanding that you can rely on yourself, and not from a place of nobody else can, it's like I'm taking myself out of, or I'm so self-sufficient. We are self-sufficient, but again, it's still recognizing that we are self-reliant, and still in the circle of togetherness with other beings, and still in the circle of togetherness with, with all. Um, is like a subtle little piece of this, of my practice of celibacy. You know, I like also that you mentioned, and I want to reiterate that even those in relationship can practice intermittent celibacy, and is helpful, especially if people are struggling, or noticing codependent, behaviors, and or even if they're not, just to be able to take time to cultivate the this body temple, and to remember the prayer of the body. And then when we're as individuals so filled up, that we come back to our relationship, to our partners, with a rich beauty, and gifts that have been, yeah, cultivated from self.
Yeah, yeah, and also when when you are in a relationship and um, you sleep together in one bedroom,
Hmm.
you are always in the same energy, like you sleep next to each
Hmm.
other, so your energy field is always connected with the energy field of your partner.
Yeah.
And there are times you just get to rejuvenate yourself and contemplate with yourself and reflect
Yes.
upon yourself. And
Hmm.
during the
Hmm.
night, you are sharing a bed always with the same person. So actually, before you know it, you tune into the energy of the other one.
Yeah.
And when you do it consciously, like in an intimate interaction, then is there a specific awareness about you and I
Yeah.
and the oneness of each other.
Hmm.
But when you sleep, you are in this unconscious wave because you fall asleep and actually you die because your
Yeah.
awareness in the present world isn't there. So everything that happens with you during your sleep is processing, regeneration,
Hmm.
um, transform, and processing emotions and connecting with yourself again. And then you have
Yes.
this other person next to you which is doing the same, but you both of you have a completely different story. Both
Hmm.
of you have a completely different need and process during that night. So then you sleep together year in, year out. And without knowing during these night events, you don't know what is yours and what's from the other anymore because
Hmm.
these energies they go.
Hmm.
So it is healthy once in a while, like the old um, habits of old religion, and also even now the like the aboriginals and they period of times they sleep
Yeah.
separate, or
Separate. Yeah.
even it's a habit to sleep separate, like the
Mm-hmm.
woman in one part
Mm.
and the man in the other part,
Yeah.
and they only come together for the purpose of spiritual union.
Yes. It's beautiful.
But in our
Mm.
society, it is
Mm.
a way of diminishing actually your own, without knowing. It's not consciously.
Right.
It's something you just do because everybody does it.
Yes.
But if you
It's. Mm-hmm.
practice the moment to go and sleep in another place where you just can rejuvenate, like when a woman has her period, in now we don't do that anymore, but
Mm-hmm.
there were cultures where a woman goes during this period, she goes on self-reflection, she's alone,
Yeah.
she's going into the dark and she explores herself, and then when she's completely rejuvenated with the moon and everything, then she comes back into the big circle,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
lose all these rituals and all this
Yes.
richness of self nourishment. We lost
Mm.
it.
Yeah.
And then we are surprised we get relationship problems.
No. It's just again, it's a really there's a lot of subtleties here. Um, and as you're speaking, I can certainly see how, you know, I for myself and also different clients that, for myself in the past and um, relationships that I'm discussing with my clients, there's a confusion of like, how can I be a sovereign being, how can I be sovereign and still
Absolutely.
full of life and still be really loving and deeply connected with my partner without being so enmeshed and
Yeah.
codependent, and where I'm not sure where one ends and the other begins. And it's a really delicate dance, because I think, as humans, we're prone to, unless we've really been doing some serious clearing, that we're prone to like, oh my gosh, this feels so good. I just want to be with this person. I only want this, and this clinging and this like longing and this depth that is also, I think, unconsciously connected to this fear of death, fear of annihilation, fear of all kinds of things. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, it could be these, abandonment issues and all kinds of other things. So,
Yeah, and also
um,
the romanticizing stories
yes.
to
Oh my
keep
God.
yourself in the past.
I used to romanticize the shit out of, like, I mean, which the relationships and connectedness and what this is, and like, and that just led to codependency, like a deep, deep vampiric kind of like, oh my gosh, so enmeshment, and that can be very addicting. It can be just very addicting, and like your body just like longs for that. And it's interesting because my partner and I, my beloved and I, we um, live we spend 50% of the time together, and then 50% of the time we're in different states. And so it's really interesting to feel all of this like deep longing and magnetism, because we're together again. It's like, oh my gosh, this polarity is so strong. It can be so consuming. And and then when we're apart, this is the beauty of not going into loneliness or sadness or any of those things. But again, this is a time to be regenerated and to be filled up and to take care of, myself, and still know that I'm still deeply connected to my beloved, and in fact, that this is actually creating more of the polarity, for me and for
Yeah.
our practice. It's beautiful and difficult sometimes, and as I mentioned, like, can be painful and eruptive. But all of it is the weaving that
Yeah.
is the practice of Tantra, is the beauty, all of its beauty, that even the pain is beauty, and even the separation and the longing and all of those things get to show up and rise up, so we can look at them and say, wow, oh, this is here too. Oh, and this too. And not making any of it bad, and not making it
Yeah.
more important than the other, but
It's
just
just
being with
part
that.
of.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
part of it is. It's
So
part of. It's part of. It's
when you are talking
yeah.
about the tools you have
Hmm.
in the tantric
Yeah.
journey to love yourself more and to be in a co-creating relationship instead of a
Mhm.
codependent relationship. Can
Mhm.
you give us some inspiration about that, like some tools that you can easily implement to be more aware of your own energy, your own needs, your own stories, even, and how to transform them and create this rejuvenating tantric experience?
So the first piece I would say is this is cultivating in oneself a true desire to want to to be unlimited, right? A true desire, like a vow to oneself that I am not going to stay attached to how I have been, that I am releasing time and time again my attachment to ego, my attachment in because otherwise we, myself included, can get attached to this is the way I want to be, this is, but then it limits our growth.
Yeah.
And so the first part is a true commitment. And I say even like in this way, I have a true commitment to myself, but also to humanity and to like whatever higher being, whatever higher power is all around me that creates everything, that I want to be absolutely as potentialized. I want to unlock as much as I can the power, the divine, beautiful power that is within me. Just as every single one of these trees are just continuing to grow to their full potential. They're not stopping and thinking about, well, this tree is shorter or this is what. So it is like, how do I shed whatever shows up that is not aligned with with my with where I can only even touch is a greater potential than how I'm currently showing up. So to put a pin in that is to truly have a commitment, an honest, deep commitment to oneself. Because when you have that commitment, then you use the other tools from a place of growth and love.
Yeah.
Then you can do emotional release tools. Like I had to scream, I had to shake my body. I did my some yoga poses to move the energy so it didn't get stuck because it was in my belly and in my heart, and I could feel this like all this contraction. So the tool is, if I have the commitment, then now I can use my tools for a play from a place of empowerment. And I know that as I use this tool, it is going to release the energy that's building up in my body, and
Exactly.
it's going to help me.
Yeah.
So um the vow, using tools like screaming, shaking, practicing yoga with the intention to release the energy and to be open to then what's left, and to
Like a really good dance with hard music, or running
yes,
outside and screaming to the
yes,
wind,
yes,
or
rolling down the hill, like
yeah, or pushing a
whatever.
tree, try to push a
Yeah,
tree and
yeah.
like this. Yeah,
Ah,
okay.
throw your arms back, like just open your body,
Just the
move
craziness,
the
let it go.
body, move your breath if you have them, like move your, or your energetic ones, like just move and feel. And again, it's just like I give it up. I give it up. I don't want it. I don't even understand it. I don't have to. I just, whatever's here
And I
is
allow.
creating some compression. Yes, and I am going to open. And so use the tools. The other thing is a tool that is very important for me is meditation. It also meditation like on loving kindness for myself, but also loving kindness for others. So may I experience happiness and the causes of happiness. And then when I'm having a difficult time, let's say with someone, and I feel like I want to project, I want to project onto my beloved, or I want to project and be angry at somebody else because they did something to me, or made me angry, that I can say, may this being experience happiness and the causes of happiness. May this being, and I'll say their person's name, be free of mental torment. And, may they not cultivate or nurture the pain if they experience that, so a deep also longing to say, let us be free. let me be free. Let me be free of this projection. Let me be free of this angst or this pain or anything that could be creating separation, because I just don't want it. I don't want to feel that in my body. And so that is another form of release, is loving kindness practice for oneself and for another person, even if it is a particularly difficult person. In many ways, that's almost like, maybe you don't begin with the person who is the most difficult, but like, oh, this is hurts. I'm not going to project. I don't want to create separation. Yeah, all of that leads me back to Tantra and being radiant, how to be radiant from the inside out. From the inside is keeping oneself purified and clear.
And present in the moment.
So many things. Yes.
When you
Always
feel
that.
you're
Right
drifting
back.
to the past, you
Mm-hmm.
redirect your mind and okay, that's done. And what you
Yeah.
experience in your present has to do with the creations you created in the past, because then they show up here. So if you want to create something different, you should think and act in a
Yes.
different way to make sure that your
Yes.
future has a different outcome than you have today. And if you
Yes.
can nourish your present moment and allowing it to be just for the sake of respecting the past and taking responsibility for the choices you made
Yeah.
then you are able to allow and transform your new you into your future. Now, it's
Yeah.
very interesting what you said about this commitment with yourself. And because for me, I have my contract and I have this for
Mm-hmm.
years, and I recently changed it. But I had for years, I had this way like, who am I? And I had 3 words for that.
Yeah. I have to get calm.
Okay. So I had 3 words for that. And these 3 words were for me like being bold. Now I will say
Mm-hmm.
my new words like I'm a
Mm-hmm.
loving, powerful, bold woman. And every
Mm-hmm.
time when I feel I'm disconnected, I go back into my contract and say I am a loving, powerful, bold woman, because this is the way I show up. This is the way who people see me, and this is how I want to leave my legacy.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's so
beautiful.
powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
So
powerful.
that's it. I know you have to
Yes.
have a flight, so
Yes.
can
I
you
gotta.
share me your gift with us?
Yes. I'm offering a 45-minute discovery consultation call, and this is going to be for one being who is interested in working, or just even interested, considering working with me, or wants to learn a little bit more. Then your name will just be entered into a drawing, and then I will pick that, and then make sure to make the announcement and reach out
All
to set the
right.
appointment up. Yeah. So it's going to be a 45-minute, and typically that's about $200. So we'll have this time to really drop in. From my previous experiences, I've always received feedback that it was so much more than, clients receive so much more, even from the first discovery
Yeah,
call, so much
yeah, that's
more than
true.
what they even
Yeah.
expected. So I'm excited to be able to share this. I'm excited with whoever's listening to this right now, that I know at some point we'll be able to, our energies will be able to dance, and we'll get to have a beautiful experience together. So I thank you so much. I have
Yeah.
to get going now so I don't miss my flight, but I love you, and thank you for having me here on this show.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you
Bye,
so much.
Veronica.
Goodbye, beloveds.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
So people, you receive all the information you get to have by email. And I really thank you for being here today, and up to the next interview.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Bye.